Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Dr. Shamala and I'll be your moderator today. A very warm welcome to all of you joining us for this live talk on genetics in biomedicine, a new paradigm. So before we begin, I just have some housekeeping rules for you. As what you can see in our slide now, we have muted the microphone for all the attendees. So if you have any question or feedback, so you can always put it in the chat box, right? And we just wanted to inform that this webinar will be recorded. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker, Professor Dr. Ho Boon Peng. So Prof. Ho is in the Division of Applied Biomedical Science and Biotechnology at IMU University. Prof. Ho obtained his Bachelor of Degree in Biology and a PhD in Genetics from University Putra, Malaysia. His research expertise lies in human molecular and population genomics with a particular focus on the migration and evolutions of Southeast Asia indigenous population and how this genome variation interact with environmental factor to influence human traits and complex diseases. His work contributes significantly to advancing precision medicine. Prof. Ho has received numerous prestigious awards, including Dr. Ranjit Bhagwan Singh International Fellowship, the 10th Outstanding Young Malaysian Award, and the President's International Fellowship Initiative from Chinese Academy of Sciences. He is also a Fellow of Royal Society of Biology. He has an impressive publication record of over 80 peer-reviewed journal articles and has supervised more than 30 postgraduate students. He is also serving as editorial board member for reputable international journals. Without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Ho Boon Peng to deliver his session.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shamala, for the kind introductions. Very good evening to all of you, and a very nice meeting you online over here today. Today's talk is going to be something very light. Just like to share with you a very casual one and what biomedical science is all about, and what does a geneticist do, and how it relates to human and healthcare. Yeah? So although although I work on evolution, but a lot of things that I'm actually working on, it's along the line with the disease mapping, identifying the cause of disease, and how does the role of genetics be used in the treatment of cure of the disease. For example, what sort of drug to be used and whatnot. So I want to share with you some of my experience over here later on, and sort of to make you understand better what biomedical science and what genomics is all about. Yeah. Now, a very quick one. When I talk about biomedical science, a lot of us will always ask. A lot of you guys will always ask, what exactly is biomedical science is. Now, I'd like to take you back to the history several years ago when we had the human mankind largest ever pandemic ever. Yeah, so that was during the COVID time, and a lot of us actually were being diagnosed. And then what happened is that you went to the doctor poked your nose and take the samples, and then being delivered to the lab. And what happened next is that there will be lab scientists who are going to run the test for you and tell you what is the result is all about. Yeah. So who are these people that actually process the sample for you? And it's definitely not the medical doctors. This is definitely not the nurses, but this is where the biomedical scientists come in. Yeah. So biomedical scientists are the one that actually stays in the lab. They process the biological samples that you've got, your blood, your urine, yeah, any kind of samples, and then they start running on the various examinations, interpret the results, and then give back the results back to the doctors. So put it in a more general manner, these are the people, the biomedical scientists are the people who actually back up the medical doctors. Yeah, medical doctors face patients, they take whatever things they can do, but the one that they can't do is on the lab side, and this is where we come in. Yeah. So and because of that, biomedical science always will have acquired a lot of knowledge, basic or medicine, all the way to laboratory tests, and then span up all the way to a lab technology and tests and etc. So it is a broad scope, but it is also something of a career that is being respected. Yeah. So biomedical science now, it's as a matter of fact been regulated. Yeah. So we are affiliated, and the program is affiliated with the Allied Health Sciences Regulation. So in a way that we are actually considered to be a healthcare professional. Yeah. So this is biomedical sciences all about. Now, we talk about biomedical science, always there are four major laboratory disciplines. Yeah, because this one, it's talking about like infectious diseases. I told you about virus, COVID, and obviously there are a lot more others, dengue, for example. Yeah, and this is microbiology, virology, and this is infectious sciences, infectious disease. There are also blood sciences, we call it hematology. Yeah, run on clinical chemistries, transfusion, immunology, etc. So this is blood sciences, and they're also looking into cells. What is the abnormalities of the cell that you look into? For example, if you know the cancer cells may look different from the rest. So these are cells, and then the last part would be the genetics. And I'll be going through with you what genetics and molecular pathology is all about. Yeah, I talk about molecules. Now, I like to always attribute DNA with Lego. You guys, I bet you guys have played Lego before, and at least you know what Lego is all about. Now, I'm assuming that the Lego will have four colors. Yeah, and then you start building your Lego blocks, right? So DNA, it's just like Lego, and it is always built by four colors blocks of Lego. It could be a long Lego block, it could be a short Lego block. Yeah. So different people will carry different Lego blocks, and we start building our own Legos. So that is when a Lego called this nucleotide, an ATCG. I suspect you would have learned that in your high school. Just a quick revision with you. Yeah. So and then because of that, Lego, it builds the gene, and then the genes form who we are as a human, right? So now the interesting bit of it is that you realize that you look at next to you, and even your friends and whatnot, and every one of us actually look very, very different. So why is that so different? And that is why I always tell students we look different because our Lego block are different. Different in the sense that we structure our Lego block differently. Yeah. So that is what we call as the DNA variation. And that part actually forms what we call as a study of the genetics. Yeah. So we study what are the differences and what are the similarities of the DNA sequence. We used to call these genes, but obviously genes is made up of the DNA sequence. And the more layman question is that why do I look different from you, right? And what are the consequences if you look differently? And this difference obviously would also be applied to, say, for example, diseases. Again, let's go back to several years ago when COVID. A lot of us actually got COVID. We never realized. We thought that, oh no, okay, fine, I got COVID. That's it. Positive COVID. Oh yeah, RTK positive, but then I feel nothing. But some of us, when you got COVID, you are getting severe, and in fact, many actually went into ICU. Why is that so? That is partly because of our DNA variation, which leads to our different levels of the immunology, our different response against the diseases or against the fighting against the virus. Some of us may have a little weaker when fighting against the COVID virus, and therefore we get a more severe symptoms. Some of us just don't feel anything. Yeah. So that is a way that I like to explain to you why do we look different and what would be the consequences of being different. Yeah. So that is what genetics is all about. Yeah. Now, let's talk about this Human Genome Project, this genetics. First thing now is that you know that genetic test, it's very common nowadays. Yeah. So, but when we go back to 20 years, 30 years ago, actually, so to sequence, to identify every single nucleotide of us actually took the scientists 10 years and more than 18 countries, and only completed one. And what happened now, right? So 10 years, remember? And what happened now, 30 years, 20 years down the road? If you give me 5 milliliters of your blood, and you spend about like less than 3,000 ringgit in Malaysia, in 3 weeks' time, you will get all your DNA sequence done. And I can even tell you that what sort of mutation that you may carry. Yeah. And that is how the technology actually moves on very quickly. So DNA sequence now, it's very affordable by a lot of people. And that is the reason why you would see, especially those from Malaysia. I suspect there was some from other countries, but let's talk about Malaysia. If you Google and see, you will see a long list of genetic test company available. Yeah, that's where the blooming industry of biotech, of biomedical sciences in Malaysia. Yeah. So, and that is how quick the advancement of the life science technology nowadays. Now, we see a lot of things. Then the question is that, yeah, I'll talk about a lot of this technology. How does it link to my daily life, actually? But DNA genetics, it's all about our daily life, right? The first thing is very simple, because you receive half of your genetic information from your dad and another half from your mom, and that forms you. And then, and then if at all you would have a disease, and then you would puzzle, was it from my dad or mom or not? Well, most often than not, it is not, but sometimes, unfortunately, yes, yeah. So that is genetic disease. Now, how do we apply? Again, I like to use COVID as an example because it has the greatest impact to all of us, yeah, especially to me. Well, I was involved in setting up the COVID lab and was even running samples. Yeah, COVID during pandemic time was actually a nightmare to me. So I always like to use COVID as an example when it comes to sharing sessions like this one. Yeah, even in my lectures with my students. So back to this one, running PCR. It's part of the genetics. You remember microbial genetics? Yeah. So that was where the applications of the technology it's all about, and how do we use COVID tests, PCR tests to diagnose COVID. Yeah. 30 years ago, before COVID, those from Malaysia, you can ask your dad or mom, probably you realize that Malaysia had the greatest outbreak at that time, and that made Malaysia famous, and that was the Nipah virus. Yeah. So the technology was so in advance at that time that Malaysia government has spent months with the help of the Europeans before we could identify there was a new virus called Nipah virus. Yeah. But what happened now is that within weeks, scientists have already been able to identify that the COVID is a new coronavirus. So that is how it used. And then within weeks, yeah, scientists has come up with develop a kit to diagnose the presence of the coronavirus in the patient. And even within the weeks, within months maybe, that scientists has come up with the vaccine. Yeah. So in usual manner, vaccine will take more than 10, 15 years before it can be used. Yeah. But because of technology, you can see things are moving so fast, and that's part of the use applications of the genetics. Yeah. Don't forget, yeah, your Pfizer vaccine is mRNA vaccine. That means that you're actually taking molecular biology and also DNA as the genetics as the foundation in building up the vaccine. Yeah. So then you poke and you get the virus up. What happened is that you also use that as the development of the rapid test kit. Yeah. So that is part of the applications of the genetics in our daily life. It's there with us. Yeah. And then what next is this is more of like a disease diagnosis. A lot of us, if you realize and you observe, many times we realize that our people who were suffering from disorders, and yet we don't know what diseases or disorders they have. Yeah. Sometimes we do know, but we don't know the cause. For example, let me share with an experience that when there was a patient having epilepsy. Yeah, epilepsy, you know, that's a very suffering kind of a neurological disease. Yeah, and doctor have no clue at all how to treat or how to control and manage the patient. So, and one time, the doctors actually took the blood samples and run on a DNA test, yeah, the whole genome of the DNA of the patient, and found out there's actually a mutation in a gene. Yeah, and that mutation of a gene just fits well to a disease. I mean, to a drug, and that's where the doctor actually tried to use the drug and treat on the patient, and it worked. The patient's epilepsy was being controlled. Yeah, so that is one of the example where you can actually help to diagnose the disease and therefore help in terms of the management of the patient. Yeah, there's a lot of the rare diseases out there. Rare disease means that something that you don't see often. Yeah, very critical. Yet the treatment is very expensive. Yeah, most often than not, this patient with rare disease, they will have to suffer, and they just, you know, some will pass off very early stage. So therefore, running a disease diagnosis with a genetics test, it's something very important. Yeah. Then this is another thing that if you realize also, like to use blood pressure, high blood pressure as an example. Yeah. A lot of us actually will have high blood pressure. And I would say that at least 4 out of 10 of us would eventually suffer with high blood pressure. Yeah. Now, when we have a high blood pressure, we go to the clinic there. What happens is there's a lot of drugs, a lot of drugs to treat on hypertension or the high blood pressure. If you don't believe me, you can actually try to Google and ask ChatGPT how many drugs that you have to treat on hypertension. You see a long list of drugs there. Yeah. And then why is there so many drugs? And not only that, yeah, some people will need to take 2 drugs, or some people will need to take 3 drugs before their blood pressure can be controlled. Yeah. So because then it comes to a variation, differences of us in responding to the drug. All right. And that is where this slide comes into. Some people would respond very quickly on the drug, and some people do not. And some people even worse. The moment they take the drug, they just get fainted. They just get adverse effect, for example. Yeah. I take myself, for example, if I give me two Panadols, I'll sleep the whole day long. I can't work because I respond to the drug overly. Yeah. So different people will come in different drugs. So even the same dose of drug to the different people, they will respond differently. Yeah. And that is where the genetics can come in, right? That is where the genetics can come in. And that is the reason why there's a very famous term, if you have heard that before, Dr. Shamala has mentioned that before, precision medicine. That is, we can predict accurately on your response towards certain drugs based on your genetics makeup, all right? And that is what I'm actually currently doing. Yeah, you know, why am I using hypertension? Because I'm trying to develop a kit, yeah, a diagnostic method for a medical doctor. Imagine that a patient come into the clinic. So the medical doctor just have to take a drop of your blood and then look into that and see that, okay, you have this genetic makeup, and therefore this drug will fit you best. Yeah. So I'm actually working this with a very well-known professors from Harvard Medical School in order to develop that sort of diagnostic method. to treat on the hypertension. Hopefully it works anyway, but this is a way you can see that how genetics it's actually be helpful to us. Yeah. So, and this is what we call as the precision medicine, but most often than not, this is not the only method. There's a lot of existing problems that you have, which I'm going through with you very in a short moment. Take it for example, this is what we call as the Stevens-Johnson syndrome. Yeah? There's actually a mutation that will lead to, and this mutation, if the person actually having this mutation and being taking some sort of drugs that he is sensitive to, then his whole body will get burned, or her whole body will get burned, just like the photo. Yeah, it can be life-threatening. Yeah, very dangerous. And interestingly, anyone that is originated from Southeast Asia, you will have 15% chance of carrying that mutation. So very dangerous. So what happened now is that FDA actually take a step. In fact, this is already in a pipeline in Malaysia of making a test compulsory if the certain drugs are being prescribed, then to see whether you have a mutation or not. If you have, then the medical doctor will tend to avoid that sort of drugs for you, right? So again, this is how you can actually make use of the mutation. But breast cancer is another typical example. Of course, now we can apply to many other cancers, but breast cancer is the one. Because why? If you ask your dad or mom, 20, 30 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, breast cancer, it's healing. Yeah, a lot of us, our loved ones actually pass away because of breast cancer, and it's not treatable. But now breast cancer is among the most treatable cancer. Yeah, a lot of drugs are available. Yeah. Now, why? You know this beautiful, not young anymore, but beautiful lady, and of course the gentleman over here. You watch F1, right? So Brad Pitt, but we're not talking about Brad Pitt, but we're talking about Angelina Jolie here. I'm sure you know her. Well, if you don't know, that means that means you're not watching movie at all. Now, what happened to her was that many years ago, she went and ran a genetic test because her mother and her sister actually passed away because of breast cancer and cervical cancer. So she felt that she had a very high risk of getting a breast cancer. So she went and ran a genetic test and then found out true enough that she carried a mutation that will lead her to a very high chance of breast cancer. Now, because of her test, and she decided to do a intervention. So to prevent her from getting breast cancer, and that is what we call as a mastectomy, right? So she did a mastectomy. She means she removed a part of her breast tissue, and then later on she removed her cervix. Ovary. So then actually save her from having cancers from 87% down to 5%. So again, you see that if you make use of the genetic information or your own genetic makeup, you can actually sort of to prevent yourself or to modify your lifestyle better and save against yourself from suffering certain diseases. Yeah. So I like to use her not because of her celebrity, but I like to use her case as an example when I give my lectures to the students. Yeah, because her, so to speak, brave action actually has created a lot of awareness to the world in terms of the use of the genetic test. Yeah, and not only that, you realize that a lot of the tests now in the hospital, if your patients having breast cancer, they are curable because a lot of tests can be used. And a lot of treatment can be used based on the genetic makeup of the breast cancer patient, right? So this is just an example. I'm not going through with you that, but I'm just to share with you, it is all treatable. Now, uh, uh, genetic test for newborn disease has always been there in Malaysia. But more commonly, one would be the prenatal testings. Yeah. So embryology, prenatal testing, is a growing industry in Malaysia because a lot of infertility, and then there's a lot of fertility centers offering the in vitro fertility tests, yeah, IVF, for the couples who wish to have their babies. And prenatal test always comes into and be very helpful. And obviously, what happened now is that you realize that the trend of marriage is getting older and older. So genetic test actually helps to reduce the risk of a baby from getting a disease, or at least to get the mothers be ready with certain risks of that. Yeah. So genetic tests and in prenatal, that means the baby, it's a very common uh, uh, test now, and you realize that in biomedical science, we actually had in IMU, we actually had a lot of the collaborations and cooperations, partnership with the embryology centers. Yeah. So that is again part of the applications in our daily life in genetics. Now, you watch this movie, not movie anyway, but you watch this drama before. Well, maybe some of you may not, but I'm sure your dad and mom would have watched it, CSI, and that is where the forensic comes in, right? So I myself had a lot of experience, not a lot, but I have some experience in running the forensic test when I was in USM last time. Um, so so uh, so that is what actually been used a lot of time, where you take some DNA samples and then you just run on it and see whether the suspect is there, or whether he or she is a suspect or not. It's crime scene rap cases, for example. So DNA forensic fingerprinting, it's often being used in police department, definitely, and most often referring to the chemistry department in Malaysia. There's also some use on the forensic test that is what we call as a paternity test. We use exactly the same method, but to identify the kids or the baby's biological parents, right? So that is again what we can use for forensic tests. Yeah? Paternity test, sometimes we call it, if you were to just to look into identifying the parents, yeah, biological parents. So that was also something been done and been offered, yeah, in some of the genetic test company. Then what else? This is gene editing, very hot topic, and it's going to be the topic for the next several years. Yeah. So what is gene editing? Now, imagine that you are now facing a Word document. There's a long paragraph, uh, pages of the texts that you are going through, right? So this text, then you read and read, and you suddenly find out that, no, I don't like this word, and I want to edit it. So you move your cursor to that particular word, and then you remove the word and you replace with something else. Then you read and read and read, and come to another paragraph and you realize that, no, this is very important phrase. I want to bold it. And then you move your cursor there and you bold the whole phrase. And that is how you go through, right? Now, gene editing just work as if that you are editing a Word profile, a Word document. Yeah. So assuming that your DNA sequences are the Word file, and then you have the technology to move your cursor to the DNA nucleotides sequences that you feel it is abnormal, and then you can edit it and change it to something else. So this is a very powerful technology, and it can actually be used to many applications. And what is the current trend now? Yeah, in out there in the world, is that it has been used in several clinical trial to heal or to cure some severe diseases, right? So, and this is how it works. The last few one would be something very interesting but fundamental, that is to detect where do we come from, right? So any one of us would actually question, I don't know whether you questioned before, we are the only Homo species in the world. Why is that so? Others are all gone. Yeah. So this is how we can actually work. Why am I showing this slide? Because this is something that I'd like to highlight with you. Several years ago, yeah, the scientists who actually studied the fossil DNA, yeah, and he actually won a Nobel Prize in physiology and medicine. So you can actually move into doing research and look into something very basic and very fundamental, interesting question of evolution and where do we come from, right? And there's a lot more other applications. Yeah, I'm just sharing with you some of the very superficial information about where genetic industry is all about and how biomedical science and genetics are tagging along. Yeah. So with that, thank you. Shamala, over back to you.
Thank you, Prof. Ho. Okay, so thank you, Prof. Ho, again for the insightful and interesting presentation. We truly appreciate you taking time to share your knowledge and expertise with us today. So briefly summarize today's session. So it's basically highlighting how genetics is reshaping the field of biomedical science and transforming modern healthcare. I believe that's very interesting. We have seen how DNA influenced disease risk, diagnosis, and also treatment outcomes. So overall, I believe this session has provided us with deeper understanding on evolving roles of genetics in biomedicine and the exciting opportunities it offers for the next generation. So now we go to the question and answer session. I think this is the thing that most of you are waiting for. So you can post any question that you have regarding the program, right? So we will take some of the question. I think we still have some time. So maybe I'll start with the first question first. Prof. Ho, our students always get confused between the differences between biomedical science and medical biotechnology. What is your thoughts in that?
Right. Yeah, that's a very common, I wouldn't say confusion, but a question that is being posted. Yeah, a lot of our students and parents are just wondering. Now, again, let's go back to COVID. I know you guys are boring with COVID, but that's the easiest way to talk about the COVID. Yeah. Now we know that where medical doctors is during COVID time, that's when they're going to face the patient. And I was explaining to you guys that what is the role of biomedical science? That is where scientists who actually stay in the lab and run the diagnostic for the lab. But biotechnology is the one that actually stay even behind the biomedical science. They are the one that actually set up the lab because they are the one that actually know what the technology is all about. I'm not saying that biomedical scientists does not know about technology because you need to get in touch with the technology, but they are the one, biotechnology is the one that actually studied the technology of biotechnology. For example, I was talking about DNA sequencing. They are the one actually tells or sort of to see which are the technology that can actually best fit to your lab. And biomedical scientist is the one that is going to use that technology to run the test. So I would use this as an example to tell or to distinguish what is biotechnology, sorry, what is medical biotechnology, and what is the biomedical science program is all about. I hope that explains.
Yeah, fantastic. Summarize that very well, Prof. Ho. So basically, if let's say being a student, right, they're interested to pursue it in biomedical science. So what subjects, right, they're supposed to be having, like they should have the background in which subject so that they can enroll into biomedical science?
Well, that's a very pertinent questions, I suppose, but biomedical science, like or not, you definitely need to have a biology. So make sure you do good in your biology. And on top of that, you will need basic about the chemistry. You definitely need the chemistry because there's a topic of biochemistry. Dr. Shamala yourself is a biochemist, and most often than not, we would require we may acquire mathematics or physics, but most often than not, mathematics is more important, right? Because epidemiology, topics such as epidemiology, and a lot of calculations may come in. So that is where the mathematics will come in. I suspect these are the three major subjects that you need to master when you come into biomedical science.
Thank you, Prof. Ho. So if you're interested, so you can always check on the specific requirements, right? You can also check it in our website. So any question, guys? So if you have any question, feel free to put it in our chat box.
Our audience are so
silent, yeah.
Pilot.
They're listening.
Yeah, they're so polite. I wanted to say polite. They're not ask any questions.
Yeah, so please, you can just put it in the chat box if you want to know more about our program, right? So I think that we would take another few more questions. Like usually, the common question that we always get in open days, right? Am I going to be in the lab rest of my life if I do biomedical science? I think that's very common. Yeah, maybe we would like to highlight on how versatile our program is, Prof. Ho.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. If you pursue medicine program, you don't have to be a medical doctor. So, well, I was in medicine for the last 15 years, I think. Yeah. So I was telling the same to the parents. Medical doctor, if somebody who actually pursue a doctor of medicine, he or she may not want to be medical doctor if he's not too. Same thing goes to here. If you want to take a biomedical science, doesn't mean that you have to stay in the lab. That there's a lot of other opportunities you can actually be, depending on what your interest is. Obviously, the program is actually shaped in such a way that you have the master and the knowledge about lab tests, but you can actually acquire your tests to many other fields, which include some of us would work in the journalists, and some others would work in even in the what we call as field application specialists if you like to meet up with clients. Yeah, because you need to have the knowledge about biomedical science in order for you to advise or to consult your clients about what the technology and what the reagents is all about, chemicals and tests is all about. I was sharing with you a lot of times that genetic test industry is actually blooming up. That's where you can actually get involved in developing the test. That is where your lab scientist is all about again. Some of us actually join a lot of other, if you want to be in education, just like Dr. Shamala and myself, that you further your study and then you get involved in academics and also in research. Some may even be the industry of insurance because you need to write report and you need to have the biomedical or healthcare background in order to write a report. So there's a vast variety of the career path for you to choose. The way that I say that the most important is that what is your interest, and that is the most important thing before you venture into certain career path. I hope that answered the questions, Shamala.
Yes, Prof. So we have a few questions from the audience. Yeah. So a very quick question. The first one, because I think this particular student very interested with gene editing. So will gene editing produce mutated and harmful consequences? I think can give a brief answer for this, Prof. Ho?
That is a very advanced question. This good questions indeed. Yes, actually, I would say that any of the technology can be harmful and can be beneficial. It depends on how we regulate it and how we use it. Yeah. When I give lecture to my student, I always put in a very extreme manner. If you don't use it properly, if someone actually took out the technology and use in a harmful manner, I can produce an X-Men. So so because I can change anything, I can produce a bioweapon. That is very true, and that is where the danger or the risk of the gene editing technology is all about. That is why this technology is under strict regulation at the moment, and only certain practices can be done before you move into clinical practice. And there's a lot of regulation, including the Biosecurity and Biosafety Acts, that must be complied before we actually run on these gene editing experiments. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. So another question here is more towards research. So I'll bring these two questions together, yeah? So a student asks, like, do I need to do master's or PhD if I want to be scientist? That's the first question. And the second one, I think we can just answer it together. I'm more curious about your research experience, and based on your experience or expertise, can you share with us what it takes to do a good research?
Wow, so far. Okay, yeah, doing research, now there are some private companies who has the R&D department. It actually allows the research assistants with lab scientists to actually run their research for that company. Not many, but there is some. And but obviously, if you want to have some research, new topic, new research that been doing, pursuing postgraduate studies is always be the recommended path. Yeah, all the way that if, as a matter of fact, if you get a good scoring in your undergraduate CGPA, you may even apply directly as a PhD, bypassing your master degree. That is allowed in Ministry of Higher Education. I wouldn't answer you need to, but I think that is the best path to actually move in if you are interested to be a research scientist, just like me and Dr. Shamala. Well, my research experience and my expertise, what shared to do a good research actually, that actually goes back to our curiosity. Scientists always have a curiosity. We always ask the question, why is that so? Yeah. So with that curiosity, that actually makes us to feel that I want to prove why is that so. I want to find out why is that so. So I think the first thing of doing a good research is that having a curiosity, asking a good question, and then and therefore from there you will move a first step in order to find a way to prove that in. So that is what I call as a research. I wouldn't want to call that as a genetic research, but in a general manner, that is what I thought is. What should students look up? I think first, master your foundation. Foundation, that is your knowledge, and that is very important because without having a knowledge, you can't actually do a lot of questions. Yeah, you can't ask a lot of questions, and even you have questions, you don't know how to answer, address that question. So I think first is that to get a good knowledge first. That is very important. Then most often than not in biomedical science, you will have the what I call, sorry, I have a bit itchy my head. What I call is we have a final year project to allow students to explore what research is all about, because our intention is to train our students with their curiosity. Whether you like it to be in research industry or not, that's another matter. But it trains you throughout the process. So we have that sort of path. So once you have gone into year 2 and when you are moving into year Sem 5, right? Sem 4 and Sem 5. So you will be assigned to a supervisor, which will guide you through a small little project, and that's where you're going to be exposed to what research is all about. So I thought by then you will have a better idea what research is like.
Thank you, Prof. Fantastic. So one more question on IBMS certification. So this particular student is asking, is it difficult to get this certification for graduate who finish an undergraduate degree?
IBMS certification, it's our program being certified. Challenging, yes, we have just went through the accreditation and we got it. We got a full 5 year, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Has never been easy. And not many biomedical science program in Malaysia has got the IBMS certification accreditation, I call this. So that means our program, it's at par with the international standards, especially the UK. Is it difficult? Yes, it's difficult, but then it is not to mean that it is difficult for graduate students to finish their degree. No, it is not. Yeah, it is because of a standard that making sure that you are acquired with the knowledge and the skills that is off to the standard worldwide upon your graduation. It does not have anything to do with the difficulties of your graduation at all.
Thank you, Prof. Yeah, that shows that we are internationally recognized. Yeah. Okay, so just another two more questions as we are running out of time as well. Talking about financial support, Prof. Are any scholarship or financial aid available in IMU?
Yeah, there is actually. Give me one moment. I was looking at. Yeah, there is actually. I think there are three types of scholarship available in IMU. We call this merit, needs, and also aspire scholarships. But I think the best is to consult our admission office for further information. But there are scholarships available.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. And just to add on a little bit there, for those who wish to join us this April, yeah, you still can do so. We have about like 2 weeks. So you can apply as soon as possible and you can get 10,000 ringgit bursary is available towards the tuition fees. So if you want to join us, so please grab this opportunity. Yeah, all this while we only had one intake, which is in July or September. But for this year onwards, we are having two intake where students can join in April and also in July or September. Right, so please kindly grab the opportunity if you are interested. So I'm going to last question, yeah. Talking about practical exposure and practical training. So I believe that is what we need more for a biomedical student, right? So what kind of internship opportunities are there for our biomedical science student, Prof?
Well, yes. Now, any of the undergraduate program, you have to go through an internship program. Yeah. So biomedical science, definitely you have to go through internship. There are two types of internship that you have to go through. One is the laboratory diagnostic lab, and that is where year 3 that you will have to go through that. So you'll be assigned to a list of hospitals or the diagnostic labs, and you will go through and learn about the process as if that you're working in the lab for the next several months to go. Yeah, so that is where. Another internship is what we call as the industry internship, is where you can choose any sort of that is more of a shorter term internship, where you can actually choose any of the laboratories or industries or even research labs, universities, for you to attach with, and you learn about any kinds of sorts of interest that you want to. Yeah, and that internship can be local, can be international industry. We have experience where students are being sent overseas to Singapore and recently to UK, to Australia. I think, yeah, we had students to Australia doing their internship. There's just mobility allowing you to do that. So, but one thing I like to take note here is that the laboratory internship here actually quite an advantage in IMU here compared to the rest, is where we have a program called the graduate training program. The students actually sort of, we have a memorandum signed between agreement signed between the industries, where the students actually attached to the internship And if at all the student, provided the student perform well during the internship, he will get a chance, a priority to be recruited in that particular company upon graduation. So that is where we actually sort of to arrange a career path during the internship for the students before they graduate. So yeah, you don't have to feel like worried about job when you graduate. So that is my thought about the internship programs in IMU.
Yeah, I believe that would be concern of most parents, right? Like when my son or daughter is out of the university, will they
Yeah.
get a proper job, right? So I think, yeah. So well answered, Prof. Ho. Okay, I think, yeah, we are done. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Can I just ask you
Mhm.
guys over here,
Mhm.
if you are interested more, perhaps you could actually come and join us. Follow us in the Instagram over here, and you can snapshot the is this the QR code? Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
just
then
about to
follow,
say.
yeah, and follow
Thank you,
us
Prof.
our biomedical science program Instagram so that you can actually get more update from us, yeah, from time to time.
Thank you so much, Prof. Ho. Yeah, thank you everyone for spending your evening with us and for attending our today's live talk. So follow us in FB and Instagram for the latest info, and we will meet you again for our next live talk. Till then, bye-bye.
Thank you.